All right. Welcome, everybody. This is a bonus webinar. Today we're talking about the fiscal cliff and Obamacare and how they affect you as a virtual assistant. We thought this was an important one to cover. The fiscal cliff has been in the news so much lately, and there's a lot going on. And I've got Jim, my husband and business partner, and our CFO on the line with us, too. Hi, Jim.
Hi.
He's kind of our resident, or my resident, I don't know, political and fiscal watchdog, if you will. Sometimes some of this financial stuff and the ramifications of Obamacare and things don't completely make sense to me either. So I invited him on so that he could kind of explain what the fiscal cliff is, what Obamacare is in a nutshell. I know I don't know how many reams of paper it is, but and what's coming down the pike for us as virtual assistants. So, as usual, this webinar is being recorded. We're going to post it up online later. So if you miss anything, don't fret. We'll catch you up later. Also, remember to take notes. There isn't a module for this webinar, so you'll have to either listen to us live or listen to the recording later, or take notes to catch everything on this one. So. Jim, why don't you tell us, in terms that are things that I can understand, what is the fiscal cliff?
The fiscal cliff, as defined by the media, is on January 1st, the taxes on everyone, or taxes will rise.
Speak up just a little bit.
Say what?
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
There, thank you. Much better.
The fiscal cliff, as defined by the media, is a event that will occur on January 1st, 2013, so just coming up shortly. Congress a few years ago, or 2011, I should say, passed a bill that in committee, meaning the House and the Senate sat down and made these decisions, that would cut the spending in certain departments. We won't go into which departments, and it would also end the Bush-era tax cuts. Bush-era tax cuts were a tax cut that in, I believe it was 2004 or 5, something like that, that reduced the income tax levels for all people across the board from the Clinton-era tax rates. Those tax rates will now go back to the Clinton-era rates, and tax rates are going to go up on estate taxes. So if you die and you pass on your estate to your heirs, those taxes are now going to go extremely high. Business taxes are going to go back up to where they were during the Clinton era as well. So we have high taxes, and then some spending cuts that are not in line with what should be cut, but they're going to happen anyway. So this is all going to happen on January 1st, unless the President and the Congress can come up with a solution that will satisfy businesses in the stock market and that type of thing.
Okay. So and it doesn't really sound like a big deal, like it's not something that would affect us, but because we as virtual assistants focus on small and home-based businesses, and even we've had large corporations as clients as well, but mid-sized businesses. So let's talk about how it's going to affect them. What happens in their businesses that their taxes are increasing?
Well, the taxes on your profits at the end of the year, depending upon what size business you are going to go up. Small and home-based businesses, your taxes will go up. If you're not a it doesn't matter what type of business you are, what formation. When I say type, I mean what formation are you? A C corp, an LLC, an S corp, that type of thing. Those taxes are going to go up on every corporation. So
that means that they're going to have less money available to spend to hire people, make building improvements, what have you, correct?
Yeah, they're going to have less money all the way around, and they're going to have to plan for, starting January 1st. Obviously, it's not going to be for the year 2011 or 2012, I should say. That's just ending. It's going to be for next year, 2013, that their taxes are going to be higher. So most businesses and corporations plan ahead, knowing that they're going to have to pay more taxes. So they do less things like hire employees, like making purchases of equipment. They don't expand as quickly. Those types of things. So everything it affects every part of their business because now they have a higher tax rate to pay and therefore more taxes.
Well, and a tip for you all too. One of the things that I've been hearing, I haven't seen it personally yet, but I've been hearing that because of the upcoming fiscal cliff, so in other words, businesses knowing that their taxes are going to be going up, financial planners right now are scrambling. So they're super, super busy because people are trying to figure out how to protect themselves from the tax increases, how to shelter some of that money ahead of time, what have you. So financial planners might be a good market for you to try hitting because they are so busy right now. Any other effects, Jim, that you can think of on small and home-based businesses, mid-sized businesses, corporations, or employees?
Well, one of the things that they're going to have to do somehow find a way to trim their workforce. I mean, they're not going to be able to hire people, but they may still have to have work to be done. So they're going to try and outsource some of their jobs that they do.
So this is good for us as virtual assistants then, because they're getting rid of employees then, and they're probably going to be looking to outsource so that they can get out of some of those taxes. I would imagine. Which taxes are going up? You mentioned something to me the other day about the employee contribution.
Yeah, for FICA and Medicare, if you're an employer, again, I don't recall, I believe it was George Bush that passed a bill that lowered the FICA and Social Security portion to half for the employee. So normally the employer, and this gets a little complicated, but try and stick with me, the normal FICA Social Security, which is called the FICA payment, is 15.3% of the person's gross wages. And typically the employee pays 7.65% and the employer pays the other half, 7.65%. So what George Bush did was in order to give people more money in their pocket, he reduced that percentage to 3.68 or something like that. And that is going to go up as well on January 1st. So the employees are going to have less money in their pocket because now they're going back to the rates that were previous to when George Bush passed that bill.
So
it doesn't sound like a lot, 3.68% or whatever, but the employers are now going to have to deduct it from their employees' paychecks and send it into the IRS, and employees are going to have less money in their pocket as well.
So really then businesses are getting hit double if you think about it, because they're paying more taxes out. Employees are also paying more taxes. But because the workers of the country no longer have as much money, there's not going to be as much money flowing back into those businesses in purchases, right?
Yeah, back into the economy in general. Correct.
The economy, okay. So, again, I try to find the silver lining in all of this. Obviously, if you're an employee, getting additional taxes taken out of your paycheck is a bad thing, personally. However, the good thing is it means that the small businesses that we focus on as virtual assistants are likely to need more marketing help. They're going to have to get more creative in their marketing to capture the business that is there and bring business into their companies. Also, it is good news for us, too, that they're cutting their workforces and looking to outsource it, because you and I are the people that they're going to be outsourcing to. So on that front, I look at that as good news for us, because it means that you'll have a chance to capture more business that way.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on the fiscal cliff or anything else you want to point out or explain for us?
No. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's taxes are going up, and it's going to affect everyone. So.
And you already covered this. It happens January 1st?
Yeah, it's going to happen. It goes into automatic unless, again, Congress decides to do something between now and the end of the year. They may do something to the effect of they're going to pass a bill and extend the deadline. They could push it off a month or 2 or 3 months, but it's not likely. So it's going to be automatic on January 1st unless they extend it. So the deadline,
okay.
Meaning. But
and
eventually it will happen.
Okay, I'm going to grab a couple questions here. Francine says, will companies keep outsourcing in foreign countries? That's a good question, Francine. Possible, yes, although a lot of companies are bringing their work back to the United States. They have been for the last few years. The reason is most outsourcing that's done overseas is done in countries where it's hard to understand them. They don't quite have a grasp of the English language, and it's when they outsource that way. I'm thinking Hewlett-Packard is a good example. We bought an HP computer a few years ago, and we had problems with it. Right out of the box, it didn't work. So I had to call for support, and I got somebody, I don't know, in India or Pakistan, couldn't understand them. They couldn't understand what I was trying to tell them. I ended up having to call back and request somebody in the United States just so we could communicate. So I think what a lot of companies are finding out with overseas outsourcing is that it's not as beneficial as they thought it was. Yes, they pay a much lower rate per hour, but their quality of customer service goes down considerably. So a lot of them are pulling that back to the United States. In fact, a lot of the companies that I've talked to lately are demanding that our virtual assistants be U.S.-based. Ours always have been, so it's never been an issue for us, but it's one of their first questions is, are your virtual assistants based in the United States? It's that big a concern for them that they're asking right up front. So obviously, while they're shopping around, they're avoiding the ones that are overseas. So I hope that answered your question about outsourcing in foreign countries. Any other questions?
To that.
Go ahead.
I would also believe that small and home-based businesses and even some medium-sized businesses wouldn't outsource to foreign countries, just because of the fact that they don't have enough business for the outsourcing companies in foreign countries. So.
Okay. Good point. Good point. Any other questions on the fiscal cliff or comments before we move on to Obamacare? I'm not seeing any, so we're going to go ahead and move on. So, okay, this one's a little bit bigger, I suppose. In a nutshell, tell us some of Obamacare.
Well, I'm going to just talk about. Well, I think everybody knows what Obamacare is. I'm not going to really talk about exactly what it is, but I will talk about how it's going to. Actually, you can go to the next slide. How it's going to affect mid-sized businesses and small businesses. Obamacare is mandated that employers must cover their employees that work over 30 hours per week. And they also must cover their employees if they have 50 employees or more. So currently, one corporation that I can think of that runs Red Lobster and Longhorn Steakhouse and Olive Garden is trying to cut their employees' hours to under 30 hours per week. That way, those employees would be ineligible for Obamacare. And other
ineligible,
businesses
you said.
They would be
ineligible?
Yes, ineligible. They're no longer eligible for them to cover them under Obamacare because they don't work 30 hours or more per week. Now, because they're a large corporation, they're not going to get under the 50 employees mark, so that's how they're going to cut employee work hours in order for them not to cover. And the reason they're not going to cover the employees is obviously it's going to cost a lot of money for them to cover those employees, and they're not going to be able to pass on the added costs to their customers. The overall cost of Obamacare for their employees doesn't justify the business raising their prices. They would lose customers, and then it's a snowball effect. So that's their only option if they want to remain profitable and still have a business, is to cut employee hours. I mean, what we're going to end up with is employees that are going to have to work more than one job in order to have the same amount of wages that they had with one full-time job. And then mid-sized companies and small companies that have more than 50 employees are going to try and get under that level. They're going to try and cut employees to under that level so that their company, because they're under 50 employees, is not required to give their employees Obamacare. That's part of the regulations of Obamacare. Again, so both types of businesses are going to try. Obviously the corporation that runs Red Lobster is not going to be able to outsource, but other companies that are mid-sized and can reduce their workforce to under 50 will again be looking to outsource specific jobs or tasks, I should say, that somebody else could do that they won't have to worry about them being an employee. So.
And before you continue on, I want to give a really good example. I just talked to a potential, probable new client last week. He owns a plumbing business in California, and they've got, 120 or 160? 120 employees. And between the fiscal cliff and Obamacare, what their company is working on, actively doing right now, hoping to get everything in place before the first of the year, is right now they're spending $46,000 a month in salaries, so for office salaries. I don't know what the percentage is. Obviously, some of their employees, some of that 120, are techs that go out and do the actual plumbing work and so on. They're making all of their plumbers, their techs, they're making all of them into contractors. They're essentially handing them a truck and the keys to the truck and signing them on as an independent contractor or an owner-operator, so that they can avoid the bad ramifications of Obamacare and of the fiscal cliff. So that those people will no longer be employees, they'll be contractors. Now, for their office staff, that's where they came to us and said, okay, we want to get rid of all of our office staff. So really, they're trying to get down to where they have 0 employees. And all of this has been brought on by Obamacare and the fiscal cliff. So they're wanting to contract out all of their office functions. So everything from customer service and follow-up calls to appointment setting, dispatching their now independent contractor drivers, everything. And they came to us because they're hiring another company to handle that work for them. They don't want to have those employees. They don't want employees at all because between Obamacare and the fiscal cliff, it would drag their business under so much that they couldn't be profitable and their business would no longer exist. So again, that part obviously is bad news. People are, we're going to lose more jobs, if you will, in our economy. But to me, the silver lining is you and I are, as virtual assistants, are in the right business to capture people who are doing the same thing. And my personal opinion is there are going to be a lot more businesses that are going to look to do the same exact thing. They're going to outsource. They're going to make either their current employees independent contractors, or they're going to get rid of their employees and they're going to hire independent contractors like you and I in place of those employees to do that same work. So to me, again, that's a good thing for us because we can pick up that business. So look for companies that are in that mid-sized range that are looking to get rid of employees to avoid the fiscal cliff ramifications and the Obamacare ramifications. Jim, I'll let you continue on. I think you had more on the effects.
Well, sorry about that. Part of the other part of Obamacare that will affect states is, and some states are opting out from doing this, is to create, and states are mandated again to create insurance exchanges where people can go and buy insurance that if you don't have it already. So some states are opting out and they're saying they're not going to do it because the cost is too high. They can't carry the burden on states that are already in the hole, meaning they have a deficit already. And to add that to their state budget would create a greater deficit, and some states are not willing to do that. I don't know what the ramifications of that are going to be if they decide not to do it. The federal government is also going to create an insurance exchange. So if you're in a state that doesn't have a state health care insurance exchange, you probably have people will probably have to go to the federal one. The problem with that is that the part of the insurance exchange is that it dictates how much will be covered to medical companies, your doctor, medical device companies. It ranges everywhere in between, and from doctors to people that supply the medications and the medical devices. So they're not going to get as much money as they once were. And that's going to cause some of them to go out of business, and it's going to cause some of them to not participate in those exchanges. Again, if a company is not as profitable, and this has not, I'm not trying to make a decision on Obamacare. I'm trying to give you guys what it does to a business. So now that a business is not making as much money as they once were on their product, they're going to have to cut costs, and that means they're going to have to cut employees, and they're going to have to downsize their inventory, and they're going to have to not make as many products and not do as much research and that type of thing. So, or they're going to have to raise their prices, one of the two. But again, if they're not being, getting it, they're not getting the price that they thought they were going to get before, obviously they're going to have to, the company's going to have to make cuts. So,
well, and
those are
let
the
me
two.
talk for just. I want to talk for just a minute too about for you guys how to overcome these and some of what will be your selling points when you're talking to clients. And this may be the whole Obamacare fiscal cliff maybe something too that you can design your dollar bill letters around too. It's definitely not a bad idea to do that. But how you as a virtual assistant are a bigger benefit to clients than an employee. The employer, so that your client doesn't have to pay. They don't have to pay any of the benefits because you're an independent contractor. They don't have to pay health insurance. They don't have to pay FICA. They don't have to pay the obvious ones, vacation, holiday pay, those types of things. But the biggies that are going to be big selling points for you are the health care and the taxes. They don't have to pay those. They don't have to make those contributions. So when they pay you a rate, whatever it is, $30 an hour, they pay exactly $30 an hour. Whereas if they hired an employee at $15 an hour, for example, they're going to have another percentage on top of that they have to pay in FICA, that they have to pay in Social Security, that they have to pay in health care, and so on. So a $15 an hour rate for an employee is not truly $15 an hour. It's considerably more per hour than that for the employer. So while your $30 an hour, yes, on paper and on bare bones is higher than the $15 an hour, your $30 an hour is all they pay. They don't pay anything additional on top of that. So those are things that you can bring up in conversations with your clients too, especially if you come across one that's worried about the fiscal cliff or about Obamacare. So really good selling points for you there. Jim, you go ahead. I had another point and I just lost it. So when I remember it again, I'll butt in again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, that's okay. I don't. I really. Those are pretty much the biggest issues with what businesses are seeing and what they have to take care of before Obamacare goes into effect January 1st, 2014. So they have 1 year to figure out how they're going to be profitable in following next year. And again, they pre-plan for all this stuff so that they can know what their bottom line is and where they have to price their services or products. So I believe, and I think Gail does too, that this year is going to be the year that they're going to try and make those decisions.
Yes, I definitely agree. In fact, I just mentioned on the coffee chat call too. I think 2013 is going to be good for virtual assistants because they're getting hit with higher taxes. If the fiscal cliff happens, and if companies don't do anything about it before it happens, they're going to be scrambling after. Once they start realizing and seeing that their taxes are going up, therefore their profit is going down, they're going to start looking for ways that they can fix that. And as far as Obamacare, it is only a year away before it goes into effect. And again, it's going to make a huge, huge impact on employers. I mean, when in our country have we seen large corporations? I mean, we've seen them lay off employees before. I worked for Eastman Kodak when they did one of their big rounds of layoffs. I actually took their opt-out, but anyway, one of their big rounds of layoffs back in 1993 or 4, I don't remember, some way back then. Anyway, when was the last time in our country we saw companies wholesale cutting employees' hours from full-time back to 30 hours a week just to get around this huge hit in their income and their profits? I don't remember anything. I've never heard of anything. So it's something that people are going to be gearing up for over the course of 2013. So look at mid-sized and even large companies. They're going to be cutting back or getting rid of employees. I know what I was going to say. The employee relationship. The reason I mentioned companies are going to be going with independent contractors or hiring companies to do their work for them, it relates back to IRS law. Contract an individual, our laws are skewed so that it's very easy for a judge to say, oh, no, they were an employee. You owe them unemployment benefits. You should have been paying taxes and so on. So companies are going to be looking to hire other companies rather than individuals so that they're protected from all of that too. So another another plus for you as a virtual assistant, you're all either set up as companies already, your LLCs, S Corp, C Corp, whatever you're set up as, or you're in the process of doing that already. So that again puts you in a good position to grab up those businesses. So mid-sized and large companies, and probably even small companies, are going to be looking to get rid of their employees. They're going to be looking at transforming into virtual companies, which, again, is a good place for you to jump in. You work virtually. You know the tools and technology, or you've got them at your fingertips. We're going through them in your coaching materials, so you can help them make their company virtual. In fact, it's one of the things that the plumber in California that I mentioned, I'm actually working one-on-one personally with him to show him you need this phone system, you need this software, you need this type of person, and so on. It's a big job to go from a 120-employee operation to no employees and have all that outsourced. So even a smaller company is going to need your help in showing them how to make that transition into a virtual company, how to be paperless, how to communicate across the internet, how do you communicate with a dispatcher, or how does the dispatcher communicate with the driver that's, the tech that's going out to a plumbing job. So they'll need your help to make those transitions. There's no reason why you can't market to mid-sized businesses as an independent individual virtual assistant. There are only a couple of companies in the United States that can handle a large company making a transformation into a virtual company. So some companies, many companies, are going to end up hiring multiple virtual assistants from multiple sources. And there's no reason why that can't be you. If you hit the right company with your information and get in front of the right people. Something else, again, that I look at as a plus for us as virtual assistants is, I was talking to a gentleman the other day that shows businesses how to use virtual assistants. He doesn't provide virtual assistants himself. He just shows executives and people in larger companies how to work with them, what the benefits are. What he's found out over the last several years through surveying and just talking to rooms full of people, only 20% of businesses and corporate executives know what a VA is. So, again, good news for you. If it were 100%, I would say the market is saturated, which it's absolutely not. If only 20% of people out there know what a VA is, it means that the market is wide open for you, and truly with unlimited earning potential with that kind of market still available. Something else to note for you guys, too, if you do, now I think it's long about months 12 or 13 in the Ruby level, we start talking about making that transition from a independent virtual assistant into a full-blown virtual staffing agency. I realize a lot of you are already subcontracting some of your virtual assistant work out to other people, which obviously is fine. It's your own business. I do want to caution you, though, if you do that, you should have your own company set up. So rather than a sole proprietor, don't go, in fact, I'll say it right now, do not go sole proprietor. Set up as an LLC, a C Corp, or an S Corp. Jim, are there any others? I think those are the only ones. ES or LLC. The ones that they would want would be a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC.
Yeah, most likely they're going to want to be a C Corp or a LLC.
Okay.
Or an S Corp. Did I say C Corp? I meant S Corp.
S Corp. Okay.
Yeah,
so
or an LLC.
Set yourself up as one of those. Now, this is for your own protection. Set yourself up as a C Corp or an S Corp, or, well, probably not C Corp, S Corp or LLC, sorry. But then when you subcontract out to someone else, even if it's a friend or a neighbor, please take my advice on this, if nothing else. Contract their business. So ask them to set up their own business as well, S Corp or LLC, and contract your business. So whatever, Susie's virtual assistant service should contract with Latarsha's virtual assistant service, whatever it is. Protect yourself a couple of ways. One, from IRS and employment laws, and the other is from the Obamacare laws. So, in fact, I kind of mused to Jim the other day, what I foresee happening over the next several years is if you're in business at all for yourself, you're going to be some form of corporation, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, and you're only going to contract with other corporations. So there will come a point where there are no more individuals involved, and this is all to get around some of the uglier employment, IRS, and Obamacare laws that exist. So again, to protect yourself, set up as a company, and if you subcontract to anyone else, have them set up as a company and contract the two companies to work together. I think that's the end of my 2 cents worth. It was probably more like 25. Jim, any other points? And anybody that's listening, any questions on either or, Obamacare, fiscal cliff, how it affects us as VAs? You must have covered it pretty well. I don't see any. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up. This was kind of a shorty. If you think of questions later, email us at coaching@teamdoubleclick.com, and we'll be happy to do our best to answer. Obviously, we're not attorneys and we're not accountants, but from a business standpoint and a virtual assistant standpoint, there's a lot that we can see. So hopefully you got some good information out of this.